The airman found dead at FE Warren was under investigation for M18 incident. Now, at first, I saw this and I was like, what are we talking about? So, if you guys remember, this was back in July, so 3 months ago now, a little bit over 3 months ago. There was a incident at FE Warren Air Base where the story originally was a SIG M18 went off in the holster as it was set down on a desk and shot another airman in the chest. And that was the original story. That was what the airman had said. So all SIG M18s were pulled from the Air Force Global Strike Command, I want to say, which was a lot of them, and they were all individually inspected before getting returned to service. Now, that story ended up changing a little bit. The airman, not the airman who died from the incident, but the airman who reported it, and it was his gun that went off, then got arrested for making false statements in his report of the incident, right? So now that then it casts suspicion on it. Well, was he just lying the whole time? Was it an element of horseplay? Were they fighting? Were they wrestling? And a gun happened to go off? Was he playing with the gun, not in a holster, when it went off and shot somebody? Right? Now, we still, as of right now, don't have the full report update on that situation to say one way or the other what exactly happened. And I'm not sure if we ever will know exactly what happened in the first airman's death. But now, the airman who committed the shooting or whose gun it was that killed the other airman has also been found dead, which, if you're of a conspiratorial mindset, you're going to say that's just really odd timing that somebody at the center of a, multi-million billion dollar contract winds up dead. Or if you are less conspiratorial, it's like, well, I think that he realized that his time was coming to an end, not in terms of his life, but in terms of his freedom, because he was going to be convicted of essentially manslaughter, of killing one of his fellow airmen. And he was never going to be able to live down the shame. And he thought that the easiest way out was to take his own life. Right. And we still don't have any updates on that. Even in this article, which we're about to get into, it doesn't really say whether they expect foul play, whether they expect suicide or what. It's just simply he was found dead. Found dead. Airman First Class Marcus White Allen was previously arrested following the death of Airman Braden Levon. An airman found dead at FE Warren Air Base in Wyoming earlier this month was under investigation for an on-duty shooting that led to a service pistol briefly being pulled from duty across two major Air Force commands. Officials at the base said Friday that Airman First Class Marcus White Allen was found dead on the morning of October 8th. White Allen's death was the fourth among FE Warren Security Forces troops since July. A count that had included the on-duty shooting for which White Allen was being investigated over, right? So again, initially the story was that it wasn't his fault at all. The gun was set down and then it went off randomly, right? And then he got arrested for lying. We don't exactly know the details of what he was caught lying about, only that he was being actively investigated for manslaughter. White was under investigation as a subject in relation to an on-base shooting incident in July 2025 that resulted in the death of Airman Braden Levon, officials with the 90th Missile Wing said in a statement. All four deaths since July were of airmen assigned to the 90th Security Force Group's task and purpose confirmed last week. Now, there are two other dead airmen that was ruled a murder-suicide, which is not in relation to the SIG M18 incident. That's a separate issue within the Air Force. Levon's death became a national story when it was initially reported as a possible misfire by M18 service pistol, the primary duty sidearm in all U.S. military services. Within days, officials with Air Force Global Strike Command, which oversees FE Warren, and all Air Force nuclear weapons ordered the pistol shelved until a full safety inspection was done on every individual weapon. Officials at Air Combat Command, the service's largest major command, followed suit. However, that story quickly changed as investigators looked into the shooting. Service eventually announced they had arrested an airman, White Allen, on charges of manslaughter and making a false statement in the shooting. The pistols were returned to duty after inspection. Now, we did report on it at the time. They actually released their failure rates of the pistols that because they did inspect every M17, M18 that they had in service between those two branches, and the failure rates were pretty high.
1 in 41.
Yeah, 1 in 41. So, which, it's like 2.5, 3%. But when we're talking about tens of thousands of them, that's a significant amount of pistols that need to be replaced for worn parts, right? That could lead to possible safety concerns.
And
White
initially, it was just the security forces that had theirs pulled and inspected, and then it
Well, it
was
was
expanded to the
it was
Global
pretty
Strike Command.
fast. Yeah. It was pretty fast after the fact, like 1 or 2 days at most.
Yeah.
White Allen was not identified after his initial arrest. It is unclear the circumstances of his release or where on base he was found. So he was arrested for manslaughter and for making a false statement, but then he was found dead earlier this month. So they've kept this under wraps for 2 weeks. I want to say it was on October 7th, which is odd timing, of course, when he was actually found dead. So was he found dead in a prison cell? Was he found dead on release somewhere? Is this a Epstein situation where he was in his cell and he decided to jump off the top bed while wrapping his neck in toilet paper? Not entirely sure. The 90th Missile Wing said that it was investigating his death. It did not provide any details on the incident or the nature of his death. So it's literally just he's dead. We don't really know why, how, anything like that. Is it a suicide? Is it foul play? Is it natural causes? Right? It's he's dead. That's literally all we know. Authorities are actively reviewing the July 2025 incident and White Allen's death to determine the full circumstances of each, base official said. Base leadership is fully supportive of both investigations with a focus on supporting those impacted by these tragic events. So regardless of the more conspiratorial outlook on it, it is just a completely avoidable tragedy had basic safety procedures been followed. Don't point guns at people's chests, and even if it does go off on its own, usually not going to kill somebody. And then, of course, whether it was a suicide or something more nefarious, just 2 airmen are now dead for absolutely no benefit whatsoever. And of course, the initial incident the investigation is still ongoing. So we still don't know exactly what happened with that individual SIG M17, M18. We don't know if there was an actual issue with it. We don't know whether there was foul play, whether they were wrestling. Like, we don't know if there were other witnesses to it. We don't even have a full story on that yet. Yeah. So that is the quick update on the tragic accident, manslaughter, careless death, negligence, whatever you want to call it, has now claimed a second life, both the victim and the shooter themselves. And we're not exactly sure about any other details yet. And we may never see any official reports come out on this, what was actually wrong with the handgun, if there was anything wrong with the handgun. It's the military, so they don't even necessarily have to be super forthcoming with us. Right. So yeah, it is kind of at this point you can draw your own conclusions.